but it's okay. Let's go.
I think I have too many online. Let me. Ini yang satu online aku matiin dulu.
Is Agatha from Bookaholic?
Okay.
Where do you
Yeah,
live,
betul.
Agatha?
In
Ya,
Jakarta, in
Agatha
Cawang.
panggilnya.
Boleh sih, apa aja. Boleh Agatha, boleh Tias. I met Mbak Mita in our Toastmaster Club, and she talked about how she loves reading, and then there's a book club. So I joined the previous Bookaholic, the last month Bookaholic meeting, and then this one is my second. Nice to meet you all.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you, Agatha. Welcome. Nice to meet you.
Okay, let's go, Kak Imung. We're ready.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah, let's start. 5 is a good number. If we have more, then it's also a good numbers. Welcome to our book club meeting. Tonight we have 4 books to be talked about, and there will be a story reviewed by Donald and another by Pipit. And Mita is going to talk about Bittersweet, the power of self-mastery to transform fear, doubt, anger, and despair. And this is a book draft written by herself. And I think she would like to also get some opinions about her book. And the 4th one, Tias, welcome to the club. The book is Smoke Gets in Your Eyes. Sounds like a song, yeah? Smoke Gets
It
in Your
is,
Eyes. This is more by Caitlin Doty. So we are looking forward to each of those books. If you can tell us about the book and why it is interesting for you, and then we can discuss furthermore about that. Or if you, at the end of your book review, you can tell us the golden nuggets from the book that you can share. Let's start with Donna, please. Welcome, Donna.
Okay, thank you, Mbak Imu. And thank you everyone for the opportunity. The book that I would like to share for today is, the title is Stolen Focus. Here is the cover, Stolen Focus by Johan Hari, and the subtitle is Why You Can't Pay Attention and How to Think Deeply Again. So this book is about the lack of attention or the reducing level of attention in our generation. And why I decided to read this book, because I think this is an important topic. Because to get things done, we need to have attention. And this is about the lack of attention. And there are several things that are mentioned in this book that I think are interesting. So one of them is actually very related to our club, which is one of the signs of the lack of attention in our generation is less and less people read books, because reading books is one of the deepest form of attention or focus we can have. We focus on one thing for a long time. And what is happening today is we have a technology that give us distraction and easy escape all the time. And the name of this technology is smartphone. Yeah, with the social media, you can use it to get quick relief, and you do not need to pay attention for a long time. And in fact, one of the studies cited by the book mentions that for the younger generation, I'm not sure the name of the generation, I don't remember, but it is mentioned in the book, they only pay attention for about 65 seconds for one thing. And for the older generation, they can work on one task for on average only 3 minutes before being distracted by something else. So it's quite sad. And I think this is one reason why it is important for us to read books so that we can learn to focus on one thing for a long time. And there are several quotes from the book, which are also my takeaway. One of them, if you are focusing on something and you get interrupted, on average, it will take 23 minutes for you to get back to the same state of focus. So it is very costly. You might think that it is just a small distraction, but actually to get to the deep state of focus, it requires 23 minutes on average, meaning it can be longer than 23 minutes. And it also says there are three ways in which this constant switching degrades our ability to focus. The first one is called switch cost effect. So when we switch to another task and we want to switch back, we need to remember what we did, where we were, and this is costly. And the second thing is something called screw up effect. When you switch between tasks, errors that wouldn't have happened otherwise start to creep in. So there will be some errors because we are not so focused on this task. That is the second thing. The first one is the switching cost. The second one is this higher level of errors. And the third one is interesting to me, and I never thought about this before. It is called creativity drain, which means that when we switch tasks, our ideas will be less creative. And the explanation given here is that if you spend a lot of this brain processing time switching and error correcting, switching is the first cost, error correcting is the second cost, you are simply giving your brain less opportunity to follow your associative links down to new places. Creativity is the ability to go through the connections in our brain to new and unexpected places. And if you imagine it like someone traveling, it takes time to travel to less beaten path, something that is still unfamiliar. We need time to go through this kind of path. And similarly, in our brain, if most of our brain power is already consumed by the switching cost and the error correction, then there is less energy power left for exploring these new paths. And as the result is our ideas become less creative. And I find the third one is interesting. And the opposite of distraction is something called the flow state. The flow state is the state of the deepest focus, and actually one form of activity that can induce the flow state is reading again, but also working deeply. There is another book called Deep Work by Cal Newport, which talk about working in a deep way. And the name of the state is flow state. And actually, this book explains the history of the discovery of the flow state. So this psychology, with very difficult name. The name is very difficult to pronounce, from Eastern Europe. And he discovered this by interviewing athletes in extreme sport. And they use this vocabulary, and one of this vocabulary that they often use is flow. And we are in the state, they are in the state of flow, they are climbing the mountain or do other extreme sports, they lose the sense of time. And then he discovered this not just in extreme sport, but in other activities as well. And it is now termed flow state, very famous term. And another interesting thing here that the book says, to recover, and I think this is the key, if I were to take just one takeaway from this book, this will be it. To recover from our loss of attention, it is not enough to strip out our distractions. That will just create a void. We need to strip out our distractions and replace them with sources of flow. So it is not enough just to reduce the use of social media or to turn off the notifications on our cell phone. That will just create a void. So that may reduce the negative, but it doesn't replace it with the positive. We need to replace it with the positive, and the positive are sources of flow. One of them is reading books. I think that is the main takeaway for me from this book. Yeah, that's all. that I want to share from this book. Thank you. Maybe any question?
Interesting. Well, this is a great life hacks for a current situation and for all of us. Yeah. Interesting to find you said about 65 something attention span 65. What was that again? I forgot.
For the younger generation, the average time span is just 65 seconds on
65
one thing.
seconds.
Yeah.
All right. And 3 minutes for the older generation. Okay.
Yes.
Wow. All right. I'll open up for discussion or question from you or comments. But before that, let's big round of applause for that because this one is really, for me, it's really important. Okay. Pipit, questions.
I have two questions.
Okay. Yeah, that's why I asked questions. I know
Number
you.
one, so because the switching cost between one task to another is actually a lot, which is I think 23 minutes, is it? Does it mean it's not suggested for us to do multitasking then? Because the switching between one task to another turned out to cost us more time to switch our mind and also loss of quality ideas. So how does this book view multitasking? That's number one. Number two, it's interesting about it's not enough to remove the distraction, but you actually have to fill in the gap. So does it mean this is about raising kids, I guess, in the digital era? A lot of parents think that removing devices from them is just enough, basically. And then after that, the kids will be just fine. Is it the part that actually goes wrong? Because the parents can remove the devices, but if there's no replacement for the devices in terms of alternative, which is the source of flow, that means what leaves is only a void or the void. So is that what this book means by it's not enough removing the distraction? That's it.
Yeah. The first question was? So sorry.
Multitasking. Hey, Donald,
Yeah.
what was your what was your
Multi.
attention span just now?
I cannot multitask between two questions. Should be one
Oh,
at a time.
yeah, but it was
What?
less than 65 seconds. Oh, okay. The
Yeah.
multitasking one, is it not suggested by this book then? Because the switching is costing us time and ideas.
Yeah, the book does recommend multitasking. We should do one thing at a time with full attention on this one thing. And after we complete that, we move to the second one. So that is a recommendation. Yeah, no multitasking. Focus on one thing at a time. And the second question is about raising kids. No, this book is not about raising kids. It's for adults. So it is for working people usually, or people at school. Yeah,
See.
we need to replace the distraction with sources of flow. So we need to find activities that give us this flow state. And actually there is this question from Agatha, like, on the chat I just saw. How do we create the flow? So I will give it the tips from the book. There are three things, three core components. The first is to choose a clearly defined goal. So we need to say what we are going to do. And this also prevent multitasking because we are clear about what we are going to do. And secondly, it has to be something that is meaningful to us. And thirdly, it is something that is at the edge of our abilities, but not beyond them. So it is something that is challenging, but not beyond our capability. We state clearly what we are going to do. I think this is related to Pipit's question. So this will prevent multitasking. And secondly, we do something that is meaningful to us. And thirdly, we want to do something that is at the edge of our abilities, something that is challenging. So these three things, if we have this, we can have a state of flow to replace the distractions.
Awesome. Thank you for the
But I have
question.
another question, sorry.
Yeah, sure. And Tias, thank you also for the question. Go back to Pipit.
Is there a solution for trying to achieve flow, but with time limit?
Don't know.
So there is a time limit. How much is the time limit?
Like 1 hour. Like for example, personally, it's really difficult for me to achieve flow because I know I only have 1 hour to read something, right? So it will be annoying for me while in the middle of the flow itself. Time's fleeting, right? It's like so fast. Suddenly, oh my goodness, I have to stop now. It's so annoying that in the end makes me unable to achieve the flow because of the fear of, oh, my time limit is approaching. Makes me not enjoy the time of
Mm.
even though I have like 1 hour. So is there any factor of such as time limit that can disrupt flow?
Usually for flow state, it takes a lot of time. There is one story, the psychologist that discovered flow, Michael something, the name.
Michael Mihaly.
Yeah, that's the name. He talked about his brother. So one of the interesting things in this book is that the book explains about the origin of the concept of flow.
Hmm.
And the psychologist went to Eastern Europe, met his brother, and this brother worked as a laborer, so blue collar work. But at the at his old age, he discovered a source of flow, and that the source of flow is examining stones. So the crystals between inside of stones with microscopes, I think. And one of the statement of the brother is, I start in the morning and I discovered it is dark. I thought this is power out or something, but actually I just realized it is now the evening. So from morning to evening. And he didn't realize the time. That is an example from the brothers of the invent or the scientists who discovered this concept. So I think 1 hour, it is possible to have flow, but it is not the deepest kind of flow. Usually it takes a long time. All the stories of flow, it spends multiple hours.
Hmm.
I read many books. Theodore Roosevelt wrote his book, Theodore Roosevelt, before he became president and politician. He was a prolific author and he wrote from morning to evening, okay, to finish it. But in our current situation, with 1 hour, I think we can maximize our 1 hour by removing distractions. Removing distraction, and we do just one thing. Actually, I have one thing that I apply to myself for this kind of thing. I use a stopwatch,
Um,
and when the stopwatch runs, I will not do anything else. I will not check email. So whenever the stopwatch runs, I must do this particular task. So that is one way to build awareness to me to focus on this one thing. And in 1 hour, I can accomplish quite a lot with this method. Because if I want to go, I want to take a break, I want to check my messages, I have to stop the stopwatch first. So that gives me awareness that I will break out from this flow. Yeah.
Interesting. Aside from that book, I think if you want to achieve flow, in my personal experience, you will have to practice a lot of things. For example, breathing. If you have a good breathing, the slow breathing, the long breathing, and the less, it will make it easy for you to go into the flow. And that makes, for me, it's good way to practice. And flow doesn't come in how to say this. If you say to yourself, I'm going to do some flow, it doesn't work that way, because flow means somewhat from the book, not from the book, from Michael Csikszentmihalyi, is something that you sort of like lost in it, but you enjoy it. But if you think about the time, I don't think it flows. It's more of the focus or mindful. I'm not sure which one, but I think flow can only happen when you are into it. You're drawn into the things that you do. And you love it, so you forget everything else in a way. And it comes the question from me to Donald: is that in the book? Is it being discussed about the difference between focus, mindful, and flow, or just talking about flow or focus?
No, it doesn't talk about mindfulness. This book is more on the technological side. Actually, a lot of the book is spent on condemning, is that the right word? The technological companies these days, because they use so many psychological tricks to distract people.
Yeah,
And this is the metric that the social media companies use. They use the most optimum algorithm. They use infinite scroll, so you have endless distractions.
yeah,
So a big part of the book is about these technological companies and all their tricks. But that is not the most important takeaway for me, so I do not discuss that part.
right. Well, that's interesting, though. For me, I mean, what you say about they trick us into something like that. Don't you think it's also a flow? Like if I'm so busy with doing the let's say having a look at my handphone, and I forgot everything. And sometimes, well, this morning I forgot that I actually put on some bread on a pan, and it's burning. It was a flow, right? In a bad way. Okay, enough from me. If you have any other question, Mita, Tias. Mita, you have any question? No?
I think
Um,
time for the
For
next book.
Donald, could you explain what the definition of flow again? Because I think it's about doing something that is like taking your focus away from other things. And is that correct?
Yeah, I will read the official explanation from the book instead of paraphrasing.
Mm.
Donald, you're muted.
Sorry, this is from the book, the definition. This is when you are so absorbed in what you are doing that you lose all sense of yourself and time seems to fall away and you are flowing into the experience itself. It is the deepest form of focus and attention that we know of.
Hmm. Interesting. Yeah. Which means you don't think about anything else around you. That's the difference between this and mindfulness. Because the mindfulness, I think, is, you can still focus on what you're doing, but you're aware of your surrounding.
If
Yeah.
it's mindfulness, I think it's the opposite of flow. I mean, you're super aware of the surrounding. It's the flow is oblivion with the surrounding. Only this thing that matters to me. Some like a fire broke out, you don't know you're gonna save yourself from it.
Oh, there is an
But don't you think a
anecdote.
flow is like a luxury in this modern time?
Sorry, before that, I just a story I just remember. I think after this we will have to move to the next book. Yeah, almost half an hour.
Okay.
So Bill Gates in his eighth year when he was always in flow state. And one time, because at that time they cannot have their own computer, he had to do the coding in a company's computer. And they saw that Bill Gates, the young Bill Gates, just code all the time and didn't care about anything else. So to push him to go home, they take his chair away. And what happened is that Bill Gates didn't really bother about that and kept coding with balls while standing. So that's how shocked he was.
Turn off the electricity and that's it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well, great review, Donald, and the story also make it, stick to the mind. Thank you so much, Donald. And let's now go to the next one. Pipit, you're going to let us know about Ireland, Northern Ireland, the troubles in the Northern Ireland, please.
To Donald's dismay, I'm going back to middle school book.
Okay.
So last month I started reading adult book again. I started reading adult books. It was about gene editing. This month not possible for me to read big books or thick books, so I went back to middle school book. This one is history, the troubles in Northern Ireland, and a little bit of good news for me. It can be good or bad, but next year I'm gonna teach. I have one more class added to my resume, which is world history. So I'm gonna teach world history 380 advanced placement next year. So I'm really excited. The one I'm teaching right now is international relations.
For
the one
high school?
for this, yes, my own school. Yeah, that's why it's what is it called? It started to become a first full circle now because I've been reading history for the last 2 years, every month, different region of the world, and then it suddenly somehow it prepared me for something, and then now I know that this is the reason. So I'm gonna start teaching world history next August. Yeah, this August coming. So the one on the line is Northern Ireland. The reason why Northern Ireland is part of the curriculum is because there's a specific curriculum about colonization. And then Northern Ireland is an interesting part of subject in colonization, but it's still because it is like a modern type of colonization. So Northern Ireland is supposed to be part of Ireland, but it did not become independent. It's still under British rule, for example. So it's like an ongoing colonization in a modern format or hybrid format. And another thing is this also the reason why Ireland is very consistent in defending the Palestine or supporting the Palestinian cause because they know how it feels to be quote unquote occupied, by another stronger force. In this case, although it's British rule, but in it is with the Ireland. There's actually gravity here that's shown in the book how the IRA is actually supporting the PLO, so Palestinian Liberation Organization, and Irish Republican Army, IRA. This type of bravery is very commonplace in Ireland, because they resonate with revolutionary movements worldwide. Okay, so that is the intro of why Northern Ireland is one of the topics I'm reading about. What I found is it's not that shocking because the pattern of history has always been predictable, but the interesting part for me is actually Ireland used to be an independent area that was separate from Great Britain, basically, or the British monarchy. But then one time, there was a king from UK that actually took a refuge in Dublin. So King James II, I think that's the name, yeah. Wait, a lot of these names are somehow interchangeable. Oh, King Henry II arrived in Dublin in the year 1171 because he was somehow kicked out of the throne, basically. So he wanted to ask for help. That's why he went to Dublin, Ireland. But then what started as they asked for help turned out to be they wanted to rule Ireland. So, it's a little bit no shame. He came to ask for help and support during this mangungsi, yeah, basically. But then as time went by, he started to rule the area. And then that time, he even established an area called the Pale, Pale, in which there's a strict rules, like the Irish people and the English people were not allowed to marry each other. They're not even have they're not even allowed to have a informal relationship, like having a boyfriend, girlfriend, even not even married. They do not allowed to even buy or sell stuff from each other. So they had a very strict rules to separate themselves from the Irish people. Yeah, not even allowed to speak their language. So Irish people speak Gaelic, and then English people speak English. So anyone who break the rule, for example, if English people speak Gaelic or Irish people speak English, the monarchy or whoever rules that will take the land from them. It is if they own land, the land will be taken from them. So it is that strict, you know. The reason is because they had different religions. So the English settlers were Protestant, and then the Irish people were Catholic. They call it Papist. Papist is the Catholic people. So they separate themselves, things like that. Now the thing is, when this king started to move to Ireland for some reasons, even though these English people were the minority who came to Ireland, but they thrived economically, basically. So even though the Irish people were the majority, but they themselves were almost like the secondary citizen, because the English people who lived in the Pale and then the surrounding area suddenly became much richer. Yeah, maybe they brought a lot of their belongings from British, or they have better administration or something like that. So the Irish people started to be the secondary citizen immediately. Yeah. And it was made worse with the potato plight. So there was a great potato plight when the potato harvest failed, right? And that brought a lot of famine in the area. The British, the English people were the ones survived because these English people planted wheat instead of, oh, oats instead of potatoes. So this even divided the economic gap even further, because the original Irish people, they experienced famine because of the potato harvest failed. But then the English people, because they planted oat, they did not have any, did not even receive any impact of the plight. And which is very dark in a way, because that time during the the Great Famine of Ireland, actually the export from Ireland to Britain actually increased the export of food. You can imagine how crazy that is. So then the number of oat, the amount of oat that was harvested in Ireland was actually sold to Great Britain instead of sold to Ireland. Because maybe this book doesn't say it, but maybe because Irish people did not have money because of the famine, so they could not buy the oats, right? So this English people sold the oat to the Great Britain, even though Ireland was severely um, hungry. Yeah. So I think that was really dark, in my opinion, how the the hope to get profit, or the ambition to get profit, literally make the decision looks very immoral now when we look at it. That when they needed food the most, they actually sold it to other countries, because so that is actually pretty dark to me. And there are so many different skirmishes that happened between how Catholics and Protestant communities here fought against each other. And later on, the book said that it's no longer about religion anymore, because it's now even people who never went to church also fought with each other. So it's not like they fought for their religion. It's more like the economic division and social and cultural wars. A lot of them actually do not really went to the church, for example, but they still joined the paramilitary forces in Jakarta. The book talk a lot about many different incidents, like the Eastern Rising, the Stormont movement. It's just so many. Basically, all of this incidents that somehow lead to the independence of the Ireland, except for the North. So Ireland became independent gradually from 1915 until 1946. Okay? So the way Ireland became independent was also shady. So there was one party, Liberal Party in the UK, who to everyone's surprise, suddenly proposed a bill to give Ireland the home rule rights. So they give Ireland the right to rule itself, even though still under British monarchy. And the reason why they wanted to support Ireland is because they want the support of the population of Ireland to be able to win. So it's a selfish act of a political party, just because they wanted to get many people to vote for them. They actually sacrifice the territory of their own country almost, just for something which is, I don't know. I think they lost sight of the bigger picture in this case, because that very bill of they call home rule bill was the one that became the big jump to the independence of Ireland, basically. So after they pass it to the House of Commons, Ireland became still under British rule, but they were allowed to govern itself. And then through their independent governance, they started to introduce their own parliament separate from the actual British parliament. And then gradually after World War II, just like Indonesia, they declared independence. Actually, they declared a year after Indonesia, 1946. So there's a lot of things that we need to learn from here, that whenever we lost sight of the bigger picture, we tend to somehow come up with the wrong decisions or actions that will bite us in the future. Just like what this Liberal Party did in 1915. So that's one of the things. And also what started as helping refugees, in this case, the King Henry II, suddenly, after a few years, he started to rule Ireland, even though it was not supposed to be that. So it was also a very good lesson to learn. So I think that's what I can share from the book, The Troubles in Northern Ireland. Any question?
Alright. Interesting facts, and quite shocking about the separation of the language and the area and whatnot. Okay, any questions or comments from
Oh, if I can add, because the British became a Protestant nation in 1650, until now, they still have a law that bar any kings or queens from becoming Catholics. So any of the king or the queens of England, well, if they convert to Catholicism, they're not allowed to be king and queen. And this bill still on until now. So if you can imagine, Great Britain or UK is considered a very liberal separation between religion and things, but they themselves has a very discriminatory.
what a paradox, yeah. Yes. Sounds ridiculous, but that's what it is, that nobody, no, not many people know about this, right? Yeah. Donald, you want to say something?
Yeah, thank you, Pipit, for thank you, Mbak Imu, for the opportunity. Thank you, Pipit, for the book. So I look at the map, and the United Kingdom consists of England, Scotland, Ireland, Wales. I'm not familiar about the history of the UK. Can you explain what's the difference between these and why most of them are willing to be under one nation, the UK, despite differences, because they have names, like different names, Scotland, Wales, and the one part of Ireland. But one of them, why this one part is breaking away, while there are three different parts actually. These three are also different, but they can be united. Yeah, I hope that's clear. Thank you.
Actually, that's a very controversial way to say it because if you visit Wales or Scotland, it's almost, you can tell the vibe that they don't want to admit that they're part of the United Kingdom. Whenever they have a chance to have a referendum, they would have it. Even though the result is usually just 55% want to stay in the British rule, right? I think remember a few years ago there was a referendum for Scotland whether to be independent or not. I visited Scotland last year in December, and then everywhere I went is always like Scottish flag. There's no British flag. So, and if I have students from Wales, for example, if they do flag FON, Festival of Nations, they always bring their own Wales flag, their own Scottish flag. They don't bring Union Jack, right? So that shows how they within, like under the current, they're still feel they're different from the English, you know. But I think the Northern Ireland in this case is more amplified because the original the settlers of Northern Ireland itself, the original, they are still Catholics. The reason why there is a Protestant community in Northern Ireland because they were planted there from Scotland to Northern Ireland. So there was this year, in the year, I forgot what year, yeah. But there were some rebellions in Scotland who lost against the monarchy, right? As a punishment, these Protestant rebellions from Scotland were exiled to Northern Ireland on purpose. So they were put there to create a commotion in the area to somehow fight off the Catholic influence. And that started the uprising and things like that, skirmishes until now between Catholics and the Protestant communities because it was planted there by one of the kings. I forgot which year. But that's what happened.
Crazy history, right? Interesting. Okay, one more question then, if any of you have any questions.
Think a
Yes.
comment, Mbak Imu.
Mhm.
Thank you, Mbak Pipit, for sharing the historical book. I used to live in Glasgow in Scotland for a little bit more than 1 year, and I can tell I agree with your statement about the reality that if there is any opportunity, they will take that opportunity uh, to be away from or to separate themselves from the United Kingdom. And I've when you've been saying the story about the book, it makes me reflecting on how their history, the United Kingdom history overall, very different from us in a way. Both of us are being um being what is it being under control from other nation, but the way the way that first they are not able to be separated or to have their independence, and then there's some period of time. For example, you mentioned about they're being cheated. The King James came there to ask for help, but then it's actually not the same intention as it grew. And for Scotland, I think it's more like what Palestine, what happened in Palestine right now. I think you were referring to the rebellion, Jacobite rebellion. And the aftermath of that rebellion is that there is a mass killing from the British or the English Empire to those who are in Scottish, with which I don't think we as Indonesian face. I think there are wars, obviously, in Indonesian history, but there are no like mass killing in the middle of the night. People are getting burned and stuff. But that what was happened in Scotland. And I've been reflecting also on how that creates the dynamic of the people there. The Scottish people are very apologetic somehow. Like if you meet someone, Scottish people in the street, and then you just bump each other, English people would just scoot over, but Scottish people like will say sorry like 3 times. I think that creates somehow creates how people interact to each other. And I'm not sure if I can say that they are freely they're being they're able to freely being proud of their culture up to today. So yeah, there's so much thing I'm reflecting right now, whether or not I need to be um happy to what I have been through in Indonesia, or yeah, let's just hang that in the air like that for what happened in Northern Ireland and Scotland. Thank you, Mbak Pipit.
Thank you for the insights, Diaz. Well, we need to move on. Yeah, it's actually still interesting. In any other book club, we only talk about just one book, and then the discussion go wild. The same.
Can I add two
Yeah.
things, Kak
Yeah.
Ibu?
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Before
What?
we complete two things, okay.
Yeah.
So number one, we did. Oh, Agatha is not there. Oh, she's there. Agatha. Okay. Now we did kill a lot of people, Indonesian government.
Yeah.
But outside Java, Agatha. So same strategy, same cruelty, but maybe because we had less advanced weapons, that's why the killing was not so systematic, right? But I think we did that, yeah, outside Java, when a lot of these provinces wanted to separate itself from Indonesia, for example, right? So it's the
Yeah.
same phenomenon. So we're just lucky that we were sheltered from all of that if we live in Java Island, especially during New Order era or something, right? So the second one is the resentment. Actually, the one Donald asked, actually it's felt in many different areas all over the world, even in the United States. So on the surface, they probably look like, okay, yes, we belong to United States, but on the individual level, they don't feel proud. They still hold on to their tradition. For example, the city of New Orleans used to be part of France, right? So they are not proud of being American, part of America. So if you went to New Orleans on the 4th of July, no one celebrated with fireworks, unlike the other part of United States. They still held their French colonial, like French, like we're French, not American, something like that. So that one. In Hawaii, same thing. So they did not, even though obviously the flag is United States, but the people still feel like, oh, we're Hawaiian. We're not really the American, something like that. So sometimes what is on the officially and on the surface and in the undercurrent are different. Yeah. So I think that would.
Well, thank you so much for expanding at least my horizon about history. Thank you, Pipit. Let's big round of applause for Pipit. Okay, we have two more, but I would like to say hi to Gusti and Fajar. Thank you for being here. Yes, Mita, I think you're next because you registered first for the book. And Tias, you're gonna be the last after this. Mita, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mbak Imong, because we still have more people to share. So I'm going to go very quickly. And if you take a look at in your WhatsApp group, I'm sending you some pictures because somehow my laptop is not connecting to the screen. So I apologize for that. I'm going to use both the Zoom and also the WhatsApp group. So if you take a look at the cover by Imong and the others, you can see the title of my book is called Bittersweet, and it's the power of self-mastery to conquer fear and doubt. And in this case, I need you to ask me questions if you don't understand, give me feedback for improvement, and share also what you like about this. I've done this before for my other books, and Brewers always a great help for me. So I'm confident in producing and publishing my books. So I hope you guys are not tired of helping me. I really appreciate that. And I'm so excited to publish this book and to have the book launch on hopefully July 19th or August 2nd. Which one is better? We'll see. So please feel free just to share your opinion and what you feel about this book. And the next one, if you see in the Bookaholics and also in the Book Brewers, is because Agatha is still in the Bookaholics, right? You're not in the Book Brewers yet. So there's another picture here. This is the most important reason why I'm writing this book. Because there's this quote, write the book you wish you could find on the shelf. So I enjoy reading my own books because my books usually have a lot of paintings, colorful pictures, and they're printed in large size, so they're unconventional. Fajar, you can see the Book Brewers WhatsApp group. You have the pictures in the Book Brewers WhatsApp group. Because Fajar just asked me a question here. So that's one of the reasons why I'm writing this book is because I want to find this book on my shelves and also in everyone else's shelves. This is entertaining books. It's not that hard, so everybody can enjoy this book. And what's in the book itself? In this book, I'm talking about self-mastery. Why is that important and what's the benefit of the self-mastery? Just like the Buddhism or the people of Buddhism believe that it is better that we conquer ourselves and win ourselves and master ourselves rather than we win 1,000 battles. Because when we conquer ourselves, the victory is ours and no one can take that victory from us. So in my life, after 50 years, I don't think I can influence others. I can talk to others. I can connect to others in the best way unless I'm peaceful with myself. I can accept myself and I can understand myself. So I think it all starts with me. Me here doesn't mean myself, but everyone in this room, everyone in the Zoom room. So if you want to conquer the world, look within you first. look within, dig in within, listen within, understand within, and write down what you heard from within, and then you are ready to conquer the world after. I think that's why it's important to master ourselves. The next one that I'm going to talk about is the challenges that many people are facing. If you see again in your WhatsApp group, so this is our daily life, the mental struggle that we are experiencing every day. So if you see in the WhatsApp group, sometimes we feel fine, but the next day I'm having a hard time because, for example, uh, in a relationship, you can have a fight, you can have a breakup, or at work, you can have clients who just mess up your work. So I'm having a hard time, and it's normal. And then the next day, you hit the rock bottom. Oh my God, why me? Why me? And then you start blaming God. And then things can start normal again. Whoa, that was horrible, but I'm happy. Whew, it's gone now. It's over now. So today is better. And the next year, oh, again, the war, the Iran and Israel war. Oh, So if you see that, this is our life. Everyone is experiencing this curve. And then you feel authentic. This is me. Now I learned my lessons. I learned the wisdom of what's going on after 50 years. This is me. I accept myself. I love myself. And however, what's next? Will this continue or will this stop? So that's what's in my book. And I'm going to share also with you in the Book Brewers and Bookaholics. Okay. The summary, the outline of my book. If you see, like here, the chapter 1, raison d'être, my journey, the motivation, what is self-mastery and the benefits. Chapter 2, it's about self-awareness, daily journaling, the gifts, passion, and strength. And this is the most important thing, is what is your value. Because sometimes when you're feeling down or sad or in despair or even angry, so that means the life circumstances or whatever other people is doing, they're breaking your value. They're against your value. So something that is important for you is in danger. So you need to know what your value is. And then on chapter 3, we are talking about self-regulation. Look within, asking yourself, are you okay? And how we can transform our fear and doubt into faith, our anger and despair into fortitude by doing simple things such as taking naps, breathing exercise, having a coffee with others, and also go to nature if you have time and other resources. And in chapter 4, I'm talking about embracing change, which is talking about adaptability. And here I'm quoting from a book of Santi, the famous singer, about how she managed to transform her life from being a singer into being a movie actress. I'm just not talking about Santi, I'm talking about Panchatera, the 5 ladies in Indonesia who just started their podcast on YouTube that share about personal issues between women, and they're speaking in English and Bahasa Indonesia. So you should watch it. You should take a look at YouTube and Instagram and listen to these 5 ladies, Panchatera. They're amazing. So I'm talking about them too, about the topics that they're discussing in their podcast. And then the 2 chapters after that, which is creating a supportive environment by celebrating your achievements. And the last but not the least is about setting goals. Where are we going by creating a vision board? But Imong and I talked about the importance of creating your life vision board and how these vision boards have worked for us and our peers and also our friends because what we visualize, they can become reality. I've done this before. My ebook has done this before. So I want to listen to you if you've done this before too. So back to you, Mbak Imong, our moderator. Thank you for listening. And since it's time, so I'm welcome to all the questions and feedback now. Thank you once again.
Quite interesting content of the book, and I'm looking forward to read that because it's really relevant to, I think also irrelevant to what we discussed in the beginning with Donald's book. Yeah. Okay. Any comments? Any questions?
I have a question.
Yes, Pete.
So I heard this a lot, including from Kak Mita, about conquering yourself. It's still to me a vague concept. Like, what does it actually mean? How does it look like when someone can conquer her or himself, for example, right? And how does it look like when the person cannot conquer him or himself? So I think probably that one is needs to be clearly illustrated, so then it doesn't leave as just a sound bite to me. There's a lot of quotes I heard about this, but on the practical level, it's still hard for me to imagine.
Okay, Mita, please.
Pipi, thank you so much for your question. I know it's a vague, it's a abstract concept about conquering oneself. And I believe that this is the life journey until we die, Pipi. So if I'm answering your question right now, it's only based on my 50 years living on Earth. However, if you ask someone is probably like 80 years old, their answers might be different. So my answer today is only based on my life experience for 50 years. Just to answer your question, I'm giving you my personal example. Last week, Agatha Tias and I, we went to Mensa and Toastmasters joint meeting. And at that time, we realized that Mensa people are like the top 2% most intelligent people on earth. However, as Toastmasters, we recognize because they're young, they're new, probably in their jobs, so they are reluctant and hesitant to speak in front of us, in front of a large audience. For us Toastmasters, it's easy because we have conquered our fear in public speaking. But our friends at Mensa, some of them, they need encouragement and they need to listen to our positive experience. And also they need some tips and recipe to conquer the fear of public speaking. So that's just one personal example of how we conquer our fear ourselves in a work setting. Because public speaking presentation is a work setting. Does that answer your question, Pipit?
That somehow did, but I actually have a different opinion about Mensa people. Um, I see this in a lot of students of mine as well. So the people who are intelligent, very intelligent, are highly critical of themselves. That's why it's not easy for them to air their opinion about something without any, what is it? Yeah, proper check and recheck whether what I'm gonna say is actually correct or not, or make sense or not, blah blah blah. So I find them very hesitant in sharing their, opinion or something like that. It's not because they are afraid of public public speaking, basically, but because they're highly critical of themselves. They self-sabotage almost to the point that, but when you give them a chance to research on something without any time limit, just like Leonardo da Vinci, without any time limit, that's what he wanted, right? Then the result can be very amazing. So there, yeah, the reason why, that's just from what I see from my students who I consider are very high achievers. They It's not easy for them to just speak in front of other people. When talking about the topic, they are not 100% sure about it because of the highly critical of themselves. Yeah.
That's where self-mastery comes in and very critical as well, right? Okay. One more question, if any. Yes, Gusti.
Well, I've read some self-help and some psychological books on psychology, yeah. And I think it will be better if you make your team more specific. Like I've read this book about procrastination, and then there is a book about anxiety, and there is also a book about like the problem in public speaking. Also, there is also a book about inner child, the wounded inner child. Because you in chapter 3 you wrote about fear and transforming fear and drop to faith. I think this can that can what is it, it related to anxiety, and there is also anger and despair, so maybe this related to trauma or something. So maybe it will be more like what is it, interesting for the readers if you spot on specific problem. Like, do you write about wounded inner child, or do you write about problem in public speaking, or do you want to write about self-doubt, anxiety, or something like that? And so your method will be what is it? Will be more how to say it, comprehensive, yeah, and directly spot to the point. Thank you. That's my opinion.
Okay. Thanks, Gusti. Mita, I think, wrote it down, and maybe you want to respond to this shortly, Mita.
Thank you, Gusti. Yeah, I agree with you that I've seen these books too. There's like a series of psychology books, one with the title Anxiety. Another one is about trauma. And there are like zillions of books talking about fear of public speaking. Uh, I think in my book, I will probably talk more about one area of whether it's fear, anger, doubt, or despair. I will focus on one thing more than the others. I think that's what I'm going to do. However, I'm still going to talk about the other negative emotions because the thing is, I see the benang merah, the connections, especially in how we overcome this negative emotion, which is using simple techniques such as breathing exercise, journaling, taking naps, and also sharing with people we love and we trust. So the thing about the negative emotions is the coping mechanism is actually similar. So one tool can be used for all these negative emotions. Of course, there are other tools that have to be more specifically used, such as talking to a counselor or going to psychiatrists and taking medication for high degree serious depression. But the negative emotions that I'm talking about is the common negative emotions that we can use simple techniques to overcome them, actually. But it's a good thing. I'm going to focus on one most important negative emotion that really affects me as a person, though. Yeah, so thank you, Christy.
Hey,
And I have some addition. Maybe you can insert like some method to how to what is it to know your own emotion, because I find that some people like they feel so chaotic, yeah, chaotic, but they don't know what they're feeling. So like if I ask them like what happened, what's wrong with you, why are you so upset, they will feel like I don't know, but they feel so chaotic because not all people know what is wrong with them.
Emotional labeling, I think that's what called, right?
Labeling, emotional labeling.
Emotional
Oh,
labeling.
oh, okay.
I think it
Ah,
would be great if you can write it down on like in a chat in our WhatsApp group so that it can be taken by Mita for consideration.
okay, okay. I will do.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mita. Give it up to Mita.
Actually, if there is
Yeah.
time, I want to comment a bit.
Yes, okay, Donald.
Just a short comment about what Pipit said
Yeah.
about these high achiever people self-sabotaging themselves.
Yeah.
I think most likely that is not the case, in my opinion. That is just most likely, not a certainty, but most likely just a fear of failure or a fear of rejection because they do not. And in the case of Mensa, I'm not saying there is certainty, but there is a possibility. This is why, because they have this high self-image, they do not want it to be violated. And that's why they fear that, as it turns out, they are not as great as the image. That's why they are so
Pressure,
afraid
yeah,
of the
pressure.
failure. Sorry? Yeah,
Like a
so
pressure.
yes, a pressure.
Imposter
And the
syndrome.
term I use is fear of failure or fear of rejection. Because they do not want to have this bad feedback that violate the image. Yes, I think that is a possible cause. Thank you.
Thank you, Donald. All right, let's this will be interesting if we have the whole time in the world to discuss further. However, we have still have one more book to be discussed about. Yes, the book is like Smoke in Your Eyes or something like that.
Yeah, smoke gets in your
Smoke
eyes.
in Your Eyes, please.
Thank you, Mbak Imum. Before I begin to talk about the book, I want to all let you know that this book is a memoir. This book is I have this goal that this year I want to read as much as memoirs I can. I the past 2 years I've been reading a lot of self-development books, and at one point I felt a little bit overwhelmed with all the skills and characteristic I need to build after reading those books. So I choose memoirs, and this is one of the memoir I read this year, around 2 books ago, I think. It is by Kathleen Doherty. If you can read this, Smoke Gets in Your Eyes. So so Kathleen is she works in a crematorium. If any of you are not familiar with it's when we burn bodies, dead bodies into ashes, and then after that, they have a service to whether make the ashes sent to your house or make just throw it away according to what families want. I'm not generally a dark person, but this book is really, really good, I think. It talks about death. And I'm not intentionally seeking a book about death at that time, but a friend of mine suggests that he told me that this is a book that her daughter enjoy, and her daughter is at similar age with me. So I thought, oh, let's give it a try. It must be good. And I was a little bit shocked that it talks about death, but halfway I can understand why it is a very enjoyable book. So this person, the author, has a strong message that she wants to tell the world, that death is not a very bad or scary experience. It's not something that we should anticipate. In matter age, in no matter what age we are, and no matter our condition, it is not something that we need to be afraid of. In fact, there's a lot of facts that in other traditions, in some cultures, death is something that people embrace, and it is something that even children already understand, because in those cultures they are the one who take care of the dead bodies of the families or the parents. It is not they're not paying someone to wash the body, not paying someone to do the makeup, for example, if they do the makeup for the dead body and so on and so forth. And she also talks about how her work in crematorium opens her eyes about people, about people in general, about life itself. Her work is to push the button in the machine to make the flame go on, and then it burns the body. And she talks about how her feeling, her first feeling when she first turned on the button, and then how she is no longer being scared after the second and third buttons she pressed. Um, yeah, it's the general idea why she writes this memoir. And along with this memoir, I also found that she writes a web series, like a blog, but it's a serial story in the blog, website blog, called Ask a Mortician. In there, the blog also talks about death. She also talks about it's not something that you need to be scared of. The modern world about creating this idea that death is something that people need to anticipate. You need to save money if you want your family not to be in hassle when you're dead, for example. It's something that we need to embrace. And I was thinking, last night I was thinking, if I want to read a few paragraphs that she wrote, and I hope that you can get the reason why I call this is a very wonderful memoir. So there's a chapter called The Art of Dying, and this is what she wrote. There is a mid-15th century German woodcut entitled Triumph Over Temptation that depicts a man lying on his deathbed. The denizens of heaven and hell surround him, fighting over his mortal soul. Demons with twisted porcine faces, claws, and hooves reach toward the bed to drag him down to the fiery underworld. Above him, a horde of angels and a floating crucified Jesus pull a tiny version of the man upward to heaven. In the midst of all this commotion, the dying man looks positively blistered, filling with inner zen. The little smirk on his face tells the viewer what he is thinking. Oh, yes, death, I've got this. The question is, how do we get to be that guy? The one who is facing his own death with complete calm, ready to get on with the moving on. The woodcut represents a popular genre in the late Middle Ages, the ars Moriendi, The Art of Dying. Ars Moriendi were instruction manuals that taught Christians how to die the good death, repenting mortal sins and allowing the soul to ascend to heaven. There is no art of dying manual available in our society, so I decided to write my own. It is intended not only for the religious, but also for the growing number of atheists, gnostics, and vaguely spiritual among us. So that is she is writing about the sort of conclusion about what she aims, but she nicely put it nearing the end of the book. So from the beginning to the nearing the end, she talked so much about how she is facing her first interaction with dead body, her first interaction calling by the cops to collect a body in the shore of San Francisco Sea, for example, and then how she grieves after she puts a button of her few first babies um, who are not surviving. So I was not in a grief moment when I'm reading this. So it's very, very reflective for me. And I'm not putting any personal experience when I'm reading this. So thank God it came to me at the perfect moment. Me myself, I have some experiences with the death because I used to work as a medical doctor, not anymore now. But I never see death as something you know something that need to be embraced by the family and the dying person himself or herself. So yeah, this is something very good to read. I've read a lot of memoirs, but this one really get my attention because of the fresh idea, I think. And I'm looking forward what you think about that. If you want to reflect on that a few
Yeah.
minutes. Hopefully it's not too dark for the weekend. Thank you.
I don't think, well, death is something beautiful as well because that's our journey towards God, right?
Indeed,
That's the way
it
to
is.
uh, perceive that. Anyway, that was a good one. Thank you so much, Tias. And I would like to invite the rest of you to give comments or ask questions. One or two.
Oh, sorry guys, I did not know I was not muted. So is it too loud for my side, from my side?
No, you were muted. I didn't hear anything.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, okay. I'm driving, right? So my question is, um, it reminds me a lot of what Torajan people think of death, that
Mm,
they almost quote unquote celebrate it. They fully embrace it. So don't you think that it's a little bit unfair that Torajan people do not get to write the manual how to face death because they're probably the professionals since they were kids?
point.
So yeah, it makes me somehow
Mm,
I wish there is people from Toraja who came up with the manual of about the art of dying actually,
mhm.
rather than some Western person who culturally afraid of death, and then it's amazing for them to be able to defy the fear, but for some other culture it's almost nothing special. It's to them it's yeah, death, what can we do? So yeah,
Yes,
that's just my impression from listening to Agatha's
that's cool.
yeah, explanation or presentation. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
Pipit.
that's a good. Be careful driving, Mbak Pipit. Yeah, but I think
Yes,
that's
I
a
still want to live.
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's a good idea. I wish if any of you come up with any Torajan people or any uh, those who are still having the cultures of embracing living with the dead or yeah live taking care of of the members of the family who are dying. I would love to read that as well, because it will be more with the same background as me. I think Mbak Pipit brought up a very good point with the Western. It's very valid, I think. Thank you,
Yeah,
Mbak.
gives me an idea. That would be great to have a book about death, but in a most beautiful way. Because culturally, most of Indonesian are still thinking like even like family. If you talk about like where we will bury ourselves or whatever, it's kind of taboo, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in Indonesia, I think we do have one book, Komarudin Hidayat, talking about that. I think that was also a good book.
Oh, I'll look it up. Thank you, Mbak Imo.
You're welcome.
Komarudin Hidayat.
Donald, you seems like you want to say something.
Yeah, but Gusti is already apa namanya? Gusti.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Gusti, you raise your hand.
Okay. So in this book, does the writer tell about the story when she interact with the family of the dead, right? So I want to know like which story that amazed you most, or like uh which story that leave the deepest impression for you in this book, from this book.
Mhm. There's a lot. Thank you for it's a very good question, Mbak Gusti. There's one story when the dead person came from Taiwanese ethnicity, and from the Taiwanese ethnicity, they have this culture that the biggest crowd you have, the loudest crying you have during your ceremony, the better you are as a person when you leave. So there is there's been growing an industry of renting people to cry at your at the cemetery for those with these cultures. So at first she writes about oh, it's very touching, the family are coming together, there's a lot of them, it's very rare in the city of San Francisco to have a lot of people coming and then crying, and they're not crying like one drop or two drops, they're bawling like menggeru-geru gitu. So after that, she came across one of the family members who told them, "Oh yeah, we rent this service because we also invite other long distance families. We want them to know that these people is kind." So I think that's one that really captured my attention, Mbak Gusti. I don't know. It's funny, but also, oh, why so many efforts for the dying, right? So I think that is the beauty of uh, also the beauty of facing death, that we also want those who are already passed away to still feel that they belong to us, that we make effort to them. And by having some other people who are not knowing us but crying for us, I think that's a great effort that I will put to my own family if we have that same culture as well.
Cool.
I think
Really?
it shows the power of money. Like you can even buy
Like,
people's
really,
good
Agatha?
expression.
Sounds very
Well,
superficial. Sorry. They even invited like singers, sexy singers to attract people coming, right?
Huh?
singers
Yeah,
too?
you can see. Yeah, they attract sexy singers, dancers to attract people so they can come to the funeral.
Oh my.
So they do body count. Yeah. So they
Right?
thought they could fool the angels of death, saying that, oh, these people have a lot of, this person who died have a lot of people coming in
Mourners.
for that.
Yeah.
But then it's as if the angels cannot differentiate which one is the honest one, which one is the fake one. So I think it's just very funny. Yeah.
That's good. All right, Donna?
Yeah, I have a question. So because this is a memoir and it explains the journey of the person who wrote the memoir, what is the transformation that that she experienced from the beginning to the end of the journey? Because you explained that she willed at the when pressing the button for the first time. It is part of the journey, but what is the transformation from the beginning to the end of the journey for the author?
Hmm. So I think she was first like walking on eggshells, you might say. She's putting her work, um she's treating her work as it is a fragile thing. She takes a lot of she put a lot of attention when she goes to work. She's anticipating how many bodies she will burn at that day. Um, yeah, to an extent that she was not enjoying it, because she has this she's scared being alone in the office, for example. And then when she was first met with the family members, should she smile or should she frown? She really thinks a lot, and along the way, she tries to she tries to make it as professional as she can, but also put a lot of thought about the dead person themselves. For example, how they want to be treated. Will they want to be burned with their clothes or not? It's some she uh, rather than she thinks about herself, about her scaredness, about her anticipation, and so on and so forth. She now shifts her mindset to what will my patient or my customer will need. I think that's the journey about herself.
Awesome. Wow.
Thank you.
That within like less than 2 hours time, we have gone through sort of like a journey from personal development, from staying focused because it's stolen all the time, to bittersweet experience of transformation, and then also smoke gets in your eyes because of the things that happen in North Ireland.
Mm.
Yeah, from history to personal development to memoir. I hope today's time is worth it for you. And I really appreciate your staying here. Uh, Practice also the listening, the focus, the flow, and the mindfulness. And then in the end, we get some insights from each other. I appreciate your time.
Foto first, Kak.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Foto.
Oh, photo together.
Let me pull over bentar.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Bring your book.
I have my book. Everyone, do you wanna prepare your book?
Yeah. Mita. Mit.
Oke, bentar.
Buku apa aja?
1, 2. Oke, thank you.
Wow. Very dedicated, yeah, Pipit. Thank you, everyone. Big tons of love for you so you can spread the love to everyone else, to everyone, and have a great weekend. See you again next month.
Yeah,
Thank
Thank
you.
you,
our next
everyone.
meeting
Have
will
a
be
good
on July 12th,
Saturday.
yeah, July
On July
12th.
12th.
July 12. Okay, got it.
All right.